Hey guys, sorry about the long wait between videos, but I need to sell a new outfit. We really need something on the chest. There, that's better. If you're here, you know that there's one constant truth in life. That Superman is the greatest superhero of all time. Originating in 1938 under the pencils of Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, who really deserved better for their creation, Superman originated on the scene as a champion of the oppressed, one who used his immense strength against those who would torment the weak and helpless, be they an abusive husband beating their wife, or a corrupt businessman who treats his workers like garbage. Obviously, that has evolved a bit over the years, but the core has remained the same. A man whose physical strength and power is rivaled only by the kindness and compassion of his heart, who does the best that he physically can to help. And like any character worth their salt, Superman has seen a decent amount of adaptations through the years. From efforts like that live-action 90s show that was more carried by its Lois than its Clark.
Lois! Coffee! We need coffee, so go get us some coffee!
To video games that entirely changed the discussion about his character, even though it's clear by the writing that you're not actually supposed to think about as hard as most people do. Thanks tie-in comics and that one sequel that sucked, but we also have better efforts like that recent cartoon, My Adventures with Superman, which I have been enjoying ever since it came out. Sure, the pacing was a bit rushed in Season 1, and you could count the frames in some shots, but the spark of those first 10 episodes lit a flame that Season 2 really ran with, and I genuinely recommend it. The only major problem is it being on Adult Swim instead of Cartoon Network, because this is the type of show I wanted as a kid. Like, the closest thing we got to a new Superman cartoon during my childhood was the Legion of Superheroes show. And sure, that was a good show. A great show, even. But there's nothing quite like a dedicated, animated Superman show to me. And we finally have it in the modern day. And it's good! Come on, baby. Season 4, 5, and 6. Let's go! Give me more of this! Oh yeah, and the new movie also looks great, and my only complaint with that suit is that weird collar. Though I do preach the truth about the return suit being peak, so what do I know? I'll do something with this eventually. Anyway, I haven't made a Superman video since 2018, and not really for any good reason. It's been a mix of being sidetracked and not really being sure what to do next, which only really increased with the increasing gap of time between my last Superman video. But a fairly important figure recently came out, and I did a very rare pre-order of it. So, let's talk about Fleischer's Superman. If you honestly need an introduction to the Fleischer Superman cartoons, I kinda wonder what rock you've been living under for the past few decades. Not only due to them being stellar pieces of animation, but also due to the fact that these shorts have been in the public domain for years, allowing basically anyone the ability to put these out. Heck, Tubi has them 3 separate times in English alone. And thus, one of my sister's friends, knowing that I was the Superman kid in a Batman household, got me this DVD from like a Dollar Tree back in the early 2000s. I don't have the cardboard slip for the disc anymore, but I do remember it featuring this bit of stolen Ed McGuinness artwork on it. While my memory is obviously a little fuzzy, I think this is actually the first non-DCA Superman I ever saw. And I think McGuinness's slightly DCAU take on Superman helped me make the transition back in the day. It's part of why I got last year's figure of his Superman, along with some double nostalgia for the skin in the Superman Returns DS game. Anyway, it's kind of a surprise this disc still works, all things considered. Despite having very poor VHS rips on it, this was enough to spark my interest until like a year or two later, when I found another DVD with this cover on it, that featured more high-quality rips of both those cartoons and more. Now, this was actually just Volume 1 of their Fleischer Superman collection. Volume 2 was also in the store at the time, and I almost grabbed that, until my dad was like, hey, Volume 2 only has 8 cartoons and Volume 1 has 9, so why don't we get the one with more? To which I was like, okay. And man, did I dodge a bullet that day. Because Volume 1 had all the good shorts, minus Showdown, and Volume 2 had all the bad ones. Also, the kids' feet are out on Volume 2. Ew. And while we're talking about DVDs, I should probably do a public service announcement. While these shorts are public domain, Warner Brothers owns the masters. And they have not done a very good job of preserving them for the masses. I'll leave a link in the description to a video discussing why the latest Blu-ray isn't very good, but as far as I can tell, the best experience you can get is with the mild-mannered cuts, which I will also link below. Now, how do the shorts themselves fare? Well, if you're looking for deep plots, you aren't going to get anything that special. But that's literally just them being one for one with the Golden Age comics at the time. Superman swoops in, solves a problem that nobody else can or is willing to, and then he leaves after dazzling the masses. What more do you really need back in the Great Depression? The basic catharsis of just seeing Superman approach these supposedly untouchable, evil people is plain to see, and is a big reason why people still just really love these shorts. And that isn't to say that he never gets hurt or hindered in them. It happens all the time, in fact. But they did a good job of keeping his powers feasible, even if there is still some cartoony logic with how solid objects bend and stuff. And all this action is punctuated by some of the most gorgeous animation you'll ever see. Fleischer was initially hesitant to do these shorts when Paramount, who had the Superman license at the time, approached them about doing the series, and thus gave a huge budget per short to try and dissuade Paramount without outright saying no. Paramount then negotiated them to about half that, and this series became some of their most profitable releases, using rotoscoped animation to help with the fluidity. To help give their Superman Lois life, they brought in Bud Collyer and Joan Alexander from the famous radio show that, hey, you can also find on YouTube. I imagine already being familiar with each other aided greatly in their dynamic, because they got it basically pitch perfect from the comics at the time.
Oh, Lois, want me to go over there with you?
No, thanks. You'd probably faint if you saw the monster. You scare so easily.
Maybe she's right, but Superman hasn't fainted yet.
One fun fact is that the theme for this series is also the theme for the radio show, just made into an orchestral version. Hey, game recognizes game. Though I wonder if this arrangement is also in the public domain. Someone get James Gunn on this in case John Williams goes off his rocker and sues. Anyway, most of the earlier shorts follow a simple formula. Some mad scientist or criminal creates a scheme and or mechanical device to cause mayhem and do crime. Lois Lane somehow gets involved, often finding some way to abandon Clark in the process, which brings forth one of the most iconic lines to ever line.
This looks like a job for Superman. This looks like a job for Superman. This looks like a job for Superman. This is a job for Superman. This looks like a job for Superman. This looks like a job for Superman.
Followed by a fun jingle as he changes that I would always do when I played Superman as a kid. And thus, Superman steps in and wins the day. However, this formula got bent a fair bit when the Fleischers basically got kicked out of their own studio. Some changes were already happening, like the cheapening of the faster than a speeding bullet sequence with less exciting comparisons and animations.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to soar higher than any plane, faster than a streak of lightning, more powerful than the pounding surf, mightier than a roaring hurricane.
But with the first famous studio short, you can already notice a general lower quality of already thin storytelling. The animation quality starts to slip a bit, with them outright forgetting to draw Superman's belt for the entirety of the last short, and oh yeah, the Second World War! Yeesh. I don't know. There's something that irks me about this icon of the American people, champion of the oppressed and downtrodden, a literal alien who shows how embracing our differences can lead to a brighter future for all, fighting racist caricatures in service of wartime propaganda. Like, I'm not blind to the fact that Golden Age Superman has social commentary built in. He was literally fighting the enemies of the common man even back to his debut, and he hated Hitler before it was cool. But I think people forget that social commentary can be done poorly, especially when it's not integrated properly with the escapism. The people of America were already balls deep into World War II. They didn't need Lois and Clark interned in Japan while Superman commits acts of sabotage. There's no victory here, just propaganda. Though as a side note, the scene of Superman saving Lois from being executed by firing squad in a foreign country does mirror a bit from Action Comics number 2. You can't do this! It's impossible! Thanks for letting me know. But yeah, while we all love to romanticize these shorts, there was a downfall. And a reason they stopped at 17 was Secret Agent, featuring a blonde recolor of Lois that kinda reminds me of one of my favorite Golden Age Superman scenes of all time. Overall, however, the legacy of Fleischer Superman simply cannot be denied. It directly inspired Batman the Animated Series and many other such projects. They still bring this costume out in various media from time to time, and the latest movie seems to have taken inspiration with a yellow outline around the crest. And now, after so long, we have a mass market action figure out which is directly said to be this version. So, let's check it out. My history with DC Multiverse is complicated. You see, while the annals of toy history, and Wikipedia, would have you forget this, DC Multiverse actually started out as a 3 3/4 inch line from Mattel around 2013. This was still in that brief window of time when the industry standard was this scale, likely due to the then success stories like Hasbro's Marvel Universe line. Mattel's initial efforts with DC Infinite Heroes were shaky, with better sculpting and posability added later in the line to better compete, but it was ultimately for naught, with the movie tie-in lines never matching that articulation standard in the slightest. The DC Multiverse line wanted to be a second attempt, based on DC's multimedia ventures, but all that really ended up being was a ton of figures based on the Batman Arkham games, with only a brief step into the Michael Keaton Batman and Christopher Reeve Superman movies in 2014, that were out of scale with the Arkham figures and Superman's odd rarity leading to the accompanying General Zod peg warming. The line announced a bunch of Arkham figures towards the end that looked promising, but a good number of those never happened before the line hard shifted towards the DC UC scale of 6 inches in 2016, with many years of very uneven quality before Mattel lost the DC license to both McFarlane and Spin Master in 2020. I haven't picked up any of Spin Master's Superman figures yet because of blah, but I have scored 3 McFarlane Superman figures so far. The original 2020 Action Comics 1000 Superman, the first Superpower Superman, and the Ed McGuinness Superman I mentioned previously. There are many I have skipped, such as any variant without trunks, a few I just straight up didn't want, and mostly ones that I do want, but they either become hard to find by the time I try to nab them, like last year's classic Superman, or they're just too dang expensive, like the Earth 2 Superman. Let's also give a nice shout out to Artificial Scarcity. Thanks, Todd. Not like I want to actually buy your toys with my limited funds. You may have also noticed that I'm a little late to the party on this, and we're not just talking about my chronically long wait between videos. No, you see, I pre-ordered this figure on Amazon right when the pre-orders went up, and was told it would ship on March 28th. It then got delayed until April 12th, so my original plans to try and have this out by Superman Day went out the window. Especially when it got delayed again to April 20th, even though by then, Amazon was already shipping them normally. Then it just showed up on the 12th with no explanation, and here we are. Not that it really mattered anyway, since by February, I was seeing people already have it in hand. This is another constant problem with McFarlane figures. They're basically on store shelves before pre-orders even open. So pre-order is less of a promise to get sooner, and more of just a regular purchase with a longer waiting period. Anyway, those issues aside, I really do like what I have of McFarlane's Superman efforts. The plastic quality is consistently what I expect for a $20 figure, and that means a lot after my brief stint with Marvel Legends had me dissatisfied in that regard. More on that another time, but I'll summarize for now that I don't like how a $20, and now $25 to $30 line doesn't feel substantial on a single figure basis. You need a good few Legends before it really feels worth your time, and thus, the McFarlane Superman figures, able to be more standalone among my Superman shelf that every stable dog has, are a lot more my speed. Heck, given how all the multiverse figures come with a stand, I think being standalone pieces is more the point. I'll get into more McFarlaneisms as we analyze the actual subject of today's review, but just know that I generally have a positive view of McFarlane going in, even if they do have some weird ideas. Digital figures, anyone? Our box is the standard they've used in one form or another since the line began. Some have complained about them using modern art instead of actual Fleischer artwork on the card, but that will have likely brought in a lot of film grain, which, trust me, does not look good when you print it. Though, maybe the colorist should have double-checked that belt? This ain't Superman Smashes the Klan. The head sculpt has also had some complaint about the signature squinty eyes. The Golden Age Superman they released a few years back tried a sort of halfway measure. Probably an attempt to seem more realistic, and he did. As in, he looked like Tommy Lee Jones for some reason. Here, however, they've committed to just letting it look like a cartoon, and that is definitely for the best. Maybe they could have included an extra head with dot eyes for the whiners among us, but I am perfectly content leaving him like this. Just for a fun comparison, here he is next to my Funko 3 3/4 inch first appearance Superman, who also sports the classic squinty eyes. Kinda wish they'd retooled this one into a Fleischer Superman. The only other one in this scale is in a set I will never own without a massive clearance. No, not because I'm poor, because it's massively overpriced. So, how's the plastic quality? Yeah, I'd say it's pretty good. The sculpt appears to be a reuse of the Earth 2 Superman, allowing him to not have those weird cuffs a lot of multiverse Supermen have. And oh look, another complaint for annoying people! This figure doesn't have pinless joints! Because heaven forbid your action figure look like a dang action figure. Yeah, that just doesn't really bother me. Joints are a part of the medium of figures. Plus, I prefer to be able to fix or modify them as I please, rather than sealing them off. Articulation's good. Not gonna list it though, since basically every modern figure has the exact same articulation scheme these days. These shoulders though, absolutely dreamy. I guess we can also note his head up movement. Pretty good. For accessories, he has a stand that I scratched up trying not to damage the inside of the box, a trading card because McFarlane likes to do those, and 2 open hands meant for strangulation. The sexiest part of this figure, however, is definitely the cloth cape, with a wire on each side for posability. It might have been nice to get at the bottom for maximum posability, but overall this is something that I really like, and want to be standard across the industry, especially given certain news that came out while I was writing this. The natural, seamless integration that fans have been doing for years, but McFarlane is just catching up to, is impressive, and I am so glad they went with this, and on a standard price figure! Heck, look at the pre-release photos they put out for it. They knew they cooked with this cape. Aesthetically speaking, this figure is clearly based on the opening you see before every short, with Superman in the spotlight. Partially at least, since the red is much brighter than even the main animation. This navy blue is actually quite inaccurate, as he was somewhere between a royal blue and the baby blue you would see in, say, the Christopher Reeve Superman. The Superman Lois show got this right, actually. It is a bit more nuanced in real life than in promo pics, though. The S-shield just cinches my hunch. The one in the shorts was a lot more broad and curvy, with the more standard letter appearing only in the opening. The prototype and Superpowers version actually had a much better S, so I'm not sure what's up here. Speaking of other figures, the laughably overpriced Mezco figure actually got the colors and shield dead on. So, that has exactly one advantage over this figure. The inaccurate colors in S-shield are a bit disappointing, but it's not like it'd be too hard to correct if it really bothers you. Just nab some paint and one of the many sheets of S-shield you can get on eBay, and you'll be good to go. Most people who complain about these things just need to learn how to paint. It's not that hard. I may be coming off as a bit of an apologist for this figure, but I refute that by saying that I don't apologize for liking something. Yes, there are problems. This is a modern collector figure. It's gonna have problems, and be the worst thing this company ever released to someone. The belt being left just unpainted, for example, is a bit lame, but I'm just too happy that this figure is a thing that I can actually buy. It's not often that I can truly say, I wish this figure had existed when I was a child. But this one has drawn that out of me. Kid me would have loved this, and the plastic quality is certainly up to snuff. Much better than Mattel's efforts were, just FYI. This is also only the second action figure made for collectors based specifically off of Fleischer Superman. Not some similar variant like the New Frontier, straight up Fleischer Superman. The Superman that, thanks to his public domain status, we all likely grew up with. So, in a sense, I don't really feel the need to critique this figure too much. If the mood strikes me to fix something, I'll bust out the paints. Always demand better, but don't be afraid to be the change you want to see in the world. But for the moment, I just want to say, thanks McFarlane, and please make that Brandon Routh figure I so desperately want before you lose the license. He deserves more. So, yeah, not my deepest critique ever, but production-wise, I'm nearing the end of a video about absolute doggy-doo, so I needed something fairly light. But what are your thoughts on this figure, and McFarlane's Superman figures overall? And how did you first encounter the original shorts? Comment down below, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Well, guess we both know who this is the job for. Hey, 911, can you come over here? 'Cause it's your job?